I wanted an alternative to the store-bought mosquito sprays for summer here in Florida. So I concocted 3 different recipes of mosquito sprays to try out in my garden all summer long. I used all 3 of them and tested each one, and I'm going to share with you today which one worked. I've been wanting to try out this recipe for probably 2 years now, but I really wanted to grow my own plants. So it first started out with growing out citronella and lemongrass. I originally grew out the citronella plant thinking that that was going to be like a really great plant for mosquitoes. Apparently not so much. So then it took me another year to get a lemongrass and grow it out enough that I could then harvest it, which is what I'm doing right here. I'm harvesting the lemongrass, I'm breaking it up, kind of smashing it, and I'm putting it in a little crock pot. In the crock pot is oil, and that oil is going to simmer with the lemongrass for about 6 to 8 hours. And then I transferred it to a glass jar and I let it sit in the oil for about 6 to 8 weeks. Yes, this is a long process, especially if you want to do it on your own, but you can actually buy lemongrass oil, infused oil. You don't have to go through this whole process. This was just something that I wanted to do because I wanted to test out whether homegrown ingredients actually made the mosquito spray more effective. I'm all about experimenting and testing things, so I had 3 recipes that I wanted to try out, and one of them really called for ingredients that were fresh. So we're starting out with the first one. This one is what I'm calling the most complex, or I'm going to label it complex, and it starts out with some distilled water and then some witch hazel. It's half a cup of each of those, and then I add in 1 teaspoon of glycerin. Then I add 1 tablespoon of alcohol. This is just like rubbing alcohol. And then I'm adding about 15 drops of my citronella oil. This is oil that I actually made from my own citronella plant. Now, after much research, I realized that this probably isn't actually what makes this any bit effective, but I had it, so I went ahead and used it. It smells really good. And then I went ahead and used 15 drops of the lemongrass oil that we created together. And then the last thing I used was, it's a little bit odd, but I kept hearing over and over that this was something that would help with mosquito sprays, and that is vanilla extract. And I actually made my own vanilla extract, not for this project, but for baking projects. But since I had it and I made it myself, I was like, okay, this is a fun thing to add. It smells amazing. But I was a little surprised. I'm not even sure why vanilla extract would be something that mosquitoes would be repelled from. It's sweet. You would think they would like that. But it does have alcohol. So when you make vanilla extract, it's vanilla beans with vodka. So the alcohol seems to be a primary thing to keep mosquitoes away, because all recipes I found, that's like the base ingredient is witch hazel or rubbing alcohol. This recipe had by far the most ingredients in it, and I think that's why I called it the complex one, partially because it had the most ingredients and partially because it was complex in the way that you have to grow these plants and then let them infuse in the oil for weeks on end and then mixing that all together. But I came up with 2 other recipes that I found online that I thought might be good recipes to compare to this one. So we got that first one done. Now we're going to work on the next one. I labeled this one the essential oil recipe, and it kind of starts out with the same base that all of them start out with, which is half a cup of distilled water and then half a cup of witch hazel. And then it's just simply adding in some essential oils. And the one that everyone mentioned would work is the lemongrass essential oil. Essential oils are made differently than infused oils. It's like a distilled process. So I actually purchased some lemongrass essential oil droppers. And so I think I put like 15 or 20 drops of the lemongrass oil. Then I also added tea tree oil because I had it, and I feel like it has a really strong woodsy scent, and I thought maybe that would help deter the mosquitoes as well. You can really put any combination you want. Some people like to do the peppermint. Some people like to do eucalyptus. Some people do the citronella still, even though there's not a whole lot of evidence out there that that one is very effective, the plant or the essential oil. I had pretty high hopes for this one because I was thinking that the ingredients are actually pretty easy to find and it is a very simple recipe. So I thought that if this works, this would be really great for you guys who view my channel for these types of recipes. So we mixed this one up really, really simple. The last one, I actually labeled it simple, but I really think the essential oils is more simple than that one. But I was kind of comparing the next one to the complex one, the first one that we did. So the third one and the first one have some similarities. Once again, we're starting out with the distilled water and the witch hazel using half a cup. This is across the board with all the recipes. And then we're going to come in with just the lemongrass oils. We're going to do the lemongrass essential oils, about 15 to 20 drops. And then we're going to do the lemongrass infused oils, about 15 to 20 drops. So this is just a straight lemongrass concoction here, thinking that maybe between the two that there would be some indication. I was trying to make something in between the essential oil and the complex. So I was mixing the essential oils and the infused oils to see if one does better than the other. Maybe this kind of will help indicate which way it goes. By the way, that didn't end up happening. I have no clue why one of them did better than the other, but it was very clear winners by the time I was done. So then the process that I go through next is, after I've mixed them all up, I took probably about 4 or 5 months to test these out. So the first thing I had to do was wait for mosquito season to arrive, which didn't take very long. You know, I think it was like May when I started testing these out. And so my testing process was that for 1 week, I would use one of the formulas. I'd put it in the spray bottle, I'd spray myself, and I would go out and I would pick flowers in the evening at dusk. And I tried to pick different days throughout the week to go pick the flowers. I was trying to make it to where it was like the highest amount of mosquitoes out. So typically after rain or something like that, I would definitely go out there at dusk when I knew that the mosquitoes were high. And I would take that time to pick my medicinal flowers. I knew I'd be out there for a minute to see if they would bite me. And so I did that for 3 weeks, and I thought that would be enough. But then, you know, the mosquito season kind of ebbs and flows, and I wasn't 100% sure if I wasn't getting bit because we weren't in the thick of mosquito season yet, or if, you know, maybe they had come around and sprayed recently. So then I started doing like an entire month with each spray. And then I started kind of skipping through the sprays at different times because, you know, mosquito season kind of leads in and then it gets really at its height, you know, where it's really bad, and then it kind of tapers off. And I kind of wanted to mix these. So it was a long process of trying to figure out, you know, of wearing these different sprays at different times. But I'm really glad that I did that because I feel like that really helped me understand which one of these worked the best.
Okay, I could definitely see some flying around me, but I had no bites today. So it's 10 for 10 for complex.
Now, I know I wasn't using the most scientific method here or keeping the different mosquito sprays completely uncontaminated. You know, like I didn't even rinse off the bottle. So it wasn't the most scientific experiment to test between these 3 different sprays. But it was mainly just for me to try to figure out if there was a spray that was more obvious. And in the beginning of the mosquito spray season, I didn't really felt like they had big differences between them. But as we headed into the peak of the season, when the rain started and, you know, we started having more standing water, I really started to notice a difference. So I think all of them kind of worked to some degree, but I was getting a significant amount of bites across the 3 different sprays. I'm showing a little bit here. I took a few for the team here. I got bit up quite a bit this summer. Before we get to the results, if you are going to try one of these mosquito sprays, make sure to head down in the comments and let me know which ones you're going to go with and tell me how your experience was. So what I learned about the different mosquito sprays is that from the 3 that I created, the complex one was the winner. I don't know what it was about the complex one. I think, honestly, I really think it has to do with the vanilla. But let me describe. So the complex was the most effective. The simple was okay. And then the essential oil one had like almost no repelling agent at all. Like, I feel like that one might have attracted the mosquitoes more. I got bit so much more with that one. I never noticed anything with the essential oils. So when I used essential oils in the complex and the simple, I don't think that's what repelled them. Now, the main difference between the complex and the simple was some ratios, but also the vanilla extract, the homemade vanilla extract. So I honestly think it's probably the vanilla extract that's doing it. I think that the oils do help, especially the homemade oils, like the lemongrass oil, the citronella oils. I think those made a greater impact than the essential oils do. Now, from a degree of how well these all worked. So like I said, essential oils, I think it attracted them. The simple one, if you're going out during the day and it's heavy mosquito season, like, it's going to keep them off during the day. But when you get towards dusk or dawn, like when they're really heavy, that didn't do very much. Now, the complex gave it a run for its money. Like, during the day, I never got bit. When I spray this and it's during the day, I never get bit. When it's in the morning time, I don't get bit. Dusk is where it happened the most often. And with this one, like, I would get 1 or 2 bites if I stayed out there longer than like an hour. There was one night where we were having some sprinkler issues. And so I was helping my husband, and we were out there for hours from like 6 o'clock all the way to like almost 10 o'clock at night. And it was prime mosquito season. It had just rained. They were out in full force. And I started with this one. This one didn't cut it after an hour or 2. I kept spraying myself. I don't know if it sweated off or if it just like wasn't that potent against that many mosquitoes. So your next option, if you're gonna want to try to stay in the somewhat homemade range, this is something that was like a big deal when I was younger, and it's starting to become a big deal again. But basically, Avon's Skin So Soft, it's the original bath oil, is the one that seems to work the most. Now, the thing I don't like about this is it's a bath oil. I don't like greasy lotions. I don't like oils on my skin. I don't like the greasy feeling. I'm a texture person, and this one bothers me. But it does work. But I compared this one to this one, and honestly, I think they were about the same. I didn't have a noticeable difference. Now, I didn't do like a full scientific study and count how many times I got bit, but from a perspective of like using this on a regular at dusk and using this at a regular at dusk, it's like 1 or 2 bites on occasion, you know, and I feel like this is the same. Now, this thing cost a pretty penny now. I remember when I was younger, these were really, really cheap. And now I think this bottle right here was like $35. Crazy, crazy. I was like, wow, that is way too much. But it is oil, and it does, you know, you don't need a lot, so you can put a little bit. So I don't know, if you don't want to make your own, this would probably be a good alternate option. Now, ingredient wise, it's like, what does it have? Like mineral oil, isopropyl, palmate. So it's got, you know, some stuff. I don't know what these names are. I don't know what some of these are. Oh, it does have some citronella oil. That's kind of cool. But it doesn't have like DEET or anything like that in it. Now, from a store-bought perspective, that night that we were out there working on the sprinkler system for several hours, I reverted to this. Now, between like off and this one, I like this one better. I think the smell is better. I feel like the texture on your skin is a little bit better. And effective wise, this thing rocks. I mean, I don't get bit ever when I spray this on myself, but there is something about coating your skin in chemicals that kind of just goes against all my principles. But there's also, you have to weigh things out, right, guys? Like, I would totally be in the camp of always using this if this worked as good as this. It didn't. Like that night I was getting bitten up so bad. I mean, I had welts all over me, and my mosquito bites are like extreme. They don't like go away. I have marks all over my body, and you can get like a lot of like dengue fever is something that like was starting to spread here in Florida. Zika, West Nile, these are all things that weirdly enough we don't hear a lot in the United States, but we get them a little bit down here in Florida because of our climate is so tropical. It kind of feeds into some of this stuff, and we have so many mosquitoes. So you have to weigh, like, do I want to spray that on me or do I want to get bit? And possibly get one of these really awful, diseases or issues. Like I don't want to chance it. So on those times when I have no choice but to be outside during the highest season of mosquitoes, I will use this. But this ends up being like, I can only remember 2 times this year that I've had to use this. This covers me the rest of the time. And I am absolutely in love with it now because it does handle that. I'm getting bit a lot less, and I can hang out in the garden at dusk for at least an hour and get a few things done when it's not so hot. And I can use something that I know all the ingredients. I grew a lot of it here in my garden. I made my own vanilla extract. Like I'm really in love with this, but I still keep this on hand because I am not going to get devastated by mosquitoes in the middle of mosquito season because I have to be outside for some reason. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today as we made and tested our homemade mosquito sprays and then compared that to how they work with the store-bought stuff. If you got something out of this video, you're going to try it yourself, make sure to give it a big thumbs up down below. Helps the channel out a lot. And subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my DIY homegrown medicinal recipes. I have a really great one I did recently on calendula skincare, so make sure to check that out. It's in the playlist below.